Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. Welcome back to another episode of Compression. This is a unique episode because not only am Jerome and I changing up the name or the title of the podcast, and I'll tell you why. I just made that decision on the go. This is a really unique one in the sense that everything that you heard from last week that you thought I was going to be working on this week got completely turned upside down. And so that's a pretty fun story to go through. And the reason being is the title of this episode is going to be, my wife loves Friends, right? So she always watches Friends before bed, and it's the one where, right? Like that's what they're all titled. So we'll call this one the one where Logan got COVID-19. So I'll tell you guys a little bit of a story. Monday, we did not have our executive meeting. We were having it on Tuesday anyways, but Monday night, and if you guys go back to listening to the last couple of weeks, you can remember me saying one of my losses was, man, I was extremely tired. So I don't actually know when I contracted COVID-19. I very well could have had it last week and just not been showing any symptoms. And that's why I was so dang tired and told you guys why one of my losses was being exhausted, right? You remember that. But anyways, I started to have cold-like symptoms. I don't get sick very often. So I figured I better go in and get tested. And so I did. And on Tuesday, actually, is whenever I went and got tested. And I got called back while I was on my executive meeting with FTW. And usually they just call and say, hey, your results are negative. And I could hear in the girl's voice that called me that, okay, this one was positive. So that one phone call, right? This is the unique thing about this is that one phone call set a completely new trajectory for my next 14 to 21 to potentially 40 days of my life, which is really unique to think about. But what we talk about on Compression all the time is those little decisions that you make that have really big impacts compounded over time. Now, this is just all of that shortened, right? Because you get to see the visceral, the external effects just like that. One decision or one external stimuli that came into my life saying, hey, Logan, you have coronavirus, but your daughter, your son, and your wife don't have coronavirus. I'm not here to debate that, but what I am here to say is that one call that is just a phone call coming into my ear completely changed not only my life, my wife's life, my children's life, the daycare's life, the church's life, all of those different scenarios that I've been working in, my company's life for the next at least 2 weeks. So that's what we're here gonna, try to unpack today a little bit is when something happens to you that is outside of your control. Maybe it was in your control at one point. Obviously, getting COVID, I could have quarantined my whole life and not contracted COVID, or maybe I would have, like some of my friends who never left their houses and somehow still got it. I don't know. But something that outside of my control, meaning somebody called me, told me something. Now I have a story to tell about how the next 2, 3, 4 weeks are going to go in my life. So we're calling this one the one where I got COVID. And, I'm really interested to hear Jerome's take on kind of my current scenario. We haven't talked all that much this week. He just checked in on me, making sure I was okay and all that stuff. So I appreciate that. But I rambled there for a minute or two, but I figured I'd at least set this episode up, Jerome.
And I think it's phenomenal. I believe that there's very few people who think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could have said, well, I just had an awful week, right? Or I had an awful day. But the thing that you did right away was you said, look, I got this test.
Yep.
Here's how it impacted me. And boom, you move to the next thing. Okay, so I need to do this, this, and this. It's very tactical. It's very much like a Navy SEAL, right? Where it's just like, okay, what's the next mission? And you've moved that way in particular for a long time, right? Yeah. And it's what people talk about as closers or cleaners, and the model that our friend, that Coach Michael Jordan uses.
Yep.
But the thing I think the thing that pivoted on that was really tied to, you started celebrating, right? You started to say, okay, like, let's commemorate these significant events. And when you could separate the two from this is a bad week and actually insert that pause and say, this means for me this, right? And think about, you brought it up, but I don't think the listeners may have picked up on it. It came at a time where it was optimal for it to happen.
Yeah.
You had already planned on creating white space on the calendar.
Yes.
Right. So you didn't have any face-to-face meetings for the quarantine period. Right. And now it's really an excuse if you were going to break that discipline to it because you're going stir crazy. You're locked in. It's going to force you to actually execute against the new habit that you want to cultivate, right? And I think that part is the toughest part, is when we're starting the new thing, is actually staying locked in so that we can actually see the benefit. At the last call before you, I was talking about coming on social media and actually being visible on social media, and how I committed to it for 90 days, and how I told the people that I committed to every day that it wasn't working and it wasn't worth it. And had I not taken those 90 days when I did, my following would be nowhere close to what it is today. I probably wouldn't know majority of the people. I wouldn't know you. I met you during that period. Like, during that 90-day period is when you showed up in my world.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's just super meaningful. And meaningful is probably not the right word. The timing is divine.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like you're in the middle of a race where you got to go meet with people face to face to get the thing done. You're in a period where it's a little bit slower, and you had already you'd set the intention. So I think it's the best of a tough situation. The thing that I've been concerned most about for you is just how are you physically doing? Yeah. But you're a young guy, you're in good shape, and the work that you've been doing, I think, helps in a big way. Definitely. The kids aren't enjoying it, but they're of the age where they'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And so now the question is, well, is he going to rest, right? Because when you had the ankle thing last year, you tried to get back to it aggressively, and it's drug it out a little bit. Yeah. So we tend to repeat the course in the school of life if we don't learn from it. So I'm excited about what this is going to do for you as you start cultivating these habits. Last week we talked about James Clear, about atomic habits, and I think when it becomes part of your identity, and I think this will give you opportunity to do that, that the thing really begins to change, the white space.
Yeah, I like how you put that. It is divine, because my wife also has the next 2 weeks were a little bit less busy for her because her main client is at their national sales meeting all of this week. I don't know if that's true next week, but my mom has already been vaccinated. And so my mom is coming up on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to give us some relief. And this could have happened, a week before I was supposed to take Taylor, or Taylor was supposed to take me to Miami for my birthday. So there's a lot of positives of, not positive of contracting COVID-19, but when it happened the way that it did. And, there's a lot of opportunity here, and it's very interesting, the parallel between me trying to reframe what workflow actually looks like for me and being forced to actually do that. And there's also another opportunity here too, is to, spend time with my children, right? And really, really spend time with them. And so, Taylor already mentioned the fact that Ezra seems like he's already bonding towards me more, and little Bella is just attached to my hip anyway. So like she's always going to be there, but really spending time with them is been interesting. And you know what, Jerome, like this could impact some other folks way worse, I think. One, because Taylor works from home, she doesn't have to be somewhere, but two, I could stop everything that I'm doing right now, and I've put the people around me where our business still moves forward. Maybe not at the same rate that when Logan's driving, but it like still goes, So brokerage still goes, FTW still goes, marketing still goes. And so that's got the wheels kind of spinning in my head a little bit like, maybe these next 2 weeks actually is a precursor to what the rest of my year looks like, because I have written more case studies. I have focused on more strategy. I have done all of these different things over this past week than I have the rest of the year. And some new light bulbs are starting to go off in my head, which is really, really good. So I've raised capital this week. I had 16 new investors join the club this week, so like all of these different things, because I've got those high value tasks already scheduled, the content's out, we're doing the webinars, all of those things that I have been doing the last 3 months have started to come to fruition a little bit. And so what I'm getting to watch, kind of, because I'm not working in the business so much, I'm not on the phone 8 hours of the day right now, is what I get to watch is where these things are coming from, right? What doors are being opened from where and why. And I think 80% of the stuff I've been doing this year will not lead to the 20% of where I need to go. So it's a very unique scenario. I think I might be the only person that has said that COVID has been enlightening to them so far. It's very challenging. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't feel well and all that stuff, but like, I got 2 kids that are sick and all this stuff, not from COVID, but from other things. I got a wife that can't really touch me. And she's, her number one love language is touch and personal affection. So that's difficult as well. So there is the challenges, but from a professional standpoint, there's things to be gleaned from this and learnings to be had and changes to be made after this. And that's what gets me either not excited, but at least gets me over the hump of feeling sorry for myself or holding myself hostage, because I know that I can get better through this. So with that being said, the intention, defining the outcome for the listeners today, I think what you're going to get out of this episode is a way to reframe what something means to you. And just because everybody is telling you one thing, how to actually make that meaning different for you and your loved ones. And so that's really I think the piece that is important to learn this week is understanding that fact that, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. But if you trade your own expectations for the appreciations that we talked about last week, you can change your life. So that is sort of the affirmation, is change your expectations, change your life. Hard on disciplines and soft on schedules has been what I've been writing down every single morning. Believe it or not, I've been up at 3:30 and 4 a.m. with COVID working, mostly because I need to do some things to respond to some people before my kids get up. And that's a piece of it. But another piece of it is still keeping my sanity and keeping my routine somewhat going throughout the day. So anyways, change your expectations, change your life. Hard on disciplines, soft on schedules is what I posted about on Monday. Defining the outcome, I think people are going to hear how I've reframed what has happened to me to mean something different and actually create an opportunity out of that. Thoughts on that, Jerome?
I want to jump back to the conversation, the point that you brought up about the business still working even if you're not there. And the last week we talked a little bit about systems.
Yeah.
The only way that that happens is if there's a system in place. It's the only way that that happens.
That's right.
So just keep that in mind, ladies and gents, when you're going through this thing, that if you build the system, then you don't have to devote attention to it because the system will kick it out. Now, it's really hard when you're a solopreneur and then you start to delegate.
Yeah, it is.
To give that stuff away and then let it fail if something's not working as it should. And you have to let it fail so that you can see where the breakdown is in the process.
Yeah.
If you jump in and band-aid it and fix it prior to the failure, you will never actually know if the thing will work. It's kind of like when your kid is learning how to ride a bike and they're wobbly, but you just tuck the training wheels off, right? And you're running behind them and you don't want them to fall. Eventually you have to let them just go because they can bring it back.
Yep.
And all of you trying to make sure that they never fall, once they do it the first time, they find out it's not so bad and they can continue to move on. And it's the same thing in your business.
Yep.
Just make sure you're doing it with the right client. So no, I don't have a whole lot except for I really like the hard on disciplines and soft on schedules, because I think one of the things that we can get caught up in is trying to force it, right? There's a certain amount of friction always that we have to overcome. But then there comes a point where you have to be willing to slow down in order to make sure that it arrives at the right time. It can arrive at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And when we're so aggressive on trying to make sure that something happens, especially in real estate, man, the vast majority of things aren't that time sensitive.
Yeah.
Now, it can get out of hand, but it's not always that time sensitive. And we can make an emergency out of something that's far from that.
Yeah.
Then it puts us in a place where we're always on.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. I think that what this is really, and in probably 2 or 3 weeks, I'll talk about this, but I think what I see happening is this really having a more profound effect on me mentally and emotionally in a positive way than it did negatively. If I can get through the challenge of the children being home, letting go of the need to feel achieved throughout the week, be there to support T, all of those things, which are my main priorities, obviously, other than getting healthy, then I think I will be able to see the actual positive that comes from this, which, you know, I can kind of see. I'm going to hint on it a little bit today, and I already did with the way that I've put people around me that, yeah, it might need something, you know, my response, but I used to have to do the response, the strategy, and the implementation. Right now, it's really just a text or a Slack or an email, and then the thing is done, right? And then I show up. So I'm able to be, and what I've learned too is when I was texting my buddy, you know, really good friend of mine, and I said, you know, how's work? He's work is work. And I realized that I watched Taylor, and Taylor's one of the higher performers at her job, but I got to imagine other people working from home are doing way less than she is while she has 2 kids and, you know, at home. And so I'm like thinking about this, and like part of the reason that I have been successful is because, yes, I get up at 4 and work till 5, but it's because I'm also compressing during that period of time and working physically harder than those people. And like, you cannot continue to do that for the next 50 years. Like, it's just not sustainable. And what I'm seeing today, this week, is I am not Superman. I am human, and I can get sick, and COVID is something that goes away, hopefully. Cancer, heart disease, overweight, all of those things do not necessarily. So there's a lot of, you know, I think learnings here. But let's jump into some of these wins, man, because I'm pretty proud of some of these, you know, big wins from this week alone. Just, you know, finding this out on Tuesday, trying to trying to pivot and still move forward. So I would say this, there's been a few things. Look, I'll say this. FTW has been successful because we identify properties that are undervalued and buy them at the right value. And that alone can save an operator up into a certain point. We are now at the point where we are managing so much money, that we have so many investors, that investor relations is now an integral part, and our deals are 15, 16 months old. So investor relations and communication is now an integral part to my business. It has not been up to this extent, because people have been able to reach me and I can text and call and make people feel good. We cannot do that anymore. So I have taken a leadership role into the investor relations communications. And I really spent a lot of time this week. One of my items on my task list was to nail down and create a monthly reporting schedule. Not only monthly, obviously our quarterly, but shorter narratives to our investors, and then how to get the information, where to track it, who's responsible for it, and all of those things. So I'm very proud of myself for doing that, for stepping up outside of just raising capital and finding deals, and figuring out that I needed to own that for now until our next hire comes on. And I put that in the Slack channel. We had an hour-long conversation about it. We have new responsibilities, and our new hire already took the initiative, even though he's not working full time, to take what I put down on a paper, make it beautiful, and say, if I was an investor, this is what I would want to see. And it's already 1,000 times better than anything that we've done in the past. So that's just a huge win, man. Is this piece of the investor relations is going to not only allow for better communication, which our investors are asking for, but guys like Andy with NSD, they will not invest with us until we up our communications and our reporting. Well, that's what we're doing now. It's there. We're just not doing it yet. And so I'm very excited about that. I think it's going to get more of our repeat investors to come on board, but it's also going to get new investors like NSD, like family offices, like private equity firms to say, oh my gosh, these guys not only have incredible quarterlies, they've got monthly narratives going on, and based on value add stabilized or a new acquisition, they have certain levels of communication for each one. So that was just a huge win, man. It's just that was a big piece that I took the lead on, and the team really backed me on. I felt really good about that.
Communications is the difference between mom and pop and investor grade or institutional grade.
Absolutely. I'm very proud of how my family and myself responded when I found out that I had COVID. I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. Honestly, I never really even thought about like how negatively it was going to impact my health, which was a unique thing. Like, I think it's because I don't know the impact of the health because I haven't been watching it. So I wasn't scared of that, but I just had some level of faith in my health, in what I have done the last 6, 7, 8 months. Well, longer than that, but really been a focus on my health, that I was like, look, I can get over that. So I was just like, I was proud of my response and my leadership within my family and the way that I responded to that. So anyways, I'm very proud of that as well. That was a big win. We have other initiatives going on at FTW Investments that I am spearheading as well, which has been really great. But I was also really excited about and proud about the way that I have been working on other initiatives as well with FTW. I've realized that, we're in the business of doing deals and finding deals, but if you want to be cutting edge, you want to be a leader in the space, you have to continue to do things that other people are not doing. And so I'm not going to give all of these things away, but one of the ideas and things that we're working on is hosting a family office and private equity event here in Kansas City, having guys like Peter Malute come and speak, and inviting some of these other families here in Kansas City to the event, and then bringing vendors and speakers and stuff like that. We're working on those initiatives. Those things are moving forward, which are exciting. But the last big win that I'll say is, I did something really great, and it was putting out and producing content instead of being a consumer. Making the shift from a consumer to a producer has been game changing. And what I mean by this is, all of the articles that we're putting out on Bigger Pockets, my blog on FTW Investments, all of these different pieces of content, the regular showing up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of these different things are now starting to position finally. It's been probably the second year, but 2 or 3 years now, full time, that it feels like the thought leadership is starting to kind of hit, right? All of the speaking engagements, all the podcasts, everything like that. But what I found is like my unique genius in this business is giving my advice or thought on what somebody should do from an investment standpoint. I never thought I would be in that position. But with me, overseeing so many transactions, working on so many transactions myself, people want to get inside of my brain. Now, candidly, I do not write all of those articles. You know that. I have talked about that. But I look at them. I make sure I direct where they want to go. If there's 5 reasons or 5 trends that need to come out, I'm in there in the weeds figuring out what those trends should be, and then the writing happens. But my unique genius is being able to tie that together in talk tracks from listening to people and connecting the dots to help them see where they should be focused on. Prime example is a gentleman that's a software engineer here in Kansas City, goes to church with me, reached out to me after following me on LinkedIn. I don't know why he reached out to me. Maybe saw something on LinkedIn. I have no idea. He sits a couple pews behind Taylor and I and has watched the kids grow up. He's a young guy. His wife's a doctor. He's a software engineer. Reaches out and says, hey, I'd like to have a call, learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing. Great. Have that call. It was supposed to be an in-person meeting this week. We did it over Zoom, obviously, because of the COVID. 35 minutes into the call, he says, I really appreciate you walking me through all of these things. We have a certain amount of capital that we're going to allocate towards an investment. I just think that we're going to do more of a speculative investment at this time. And I just heard that, and I was like, it was interesting. So I thought back to the last 2 or 3 articles that I've written about Robinhood and the stock market and all of these different things. And then I talked about tax benefits. 3 minutes after the phone conversation, I get an email and say, my wife and I will be moving forward with this amount of money in your next investment, whatever it is, earmark it, and we're moving forward with you, not with a speculative investment. So I guess the big win there is that there is an art to this business. Everybody wants to know what the science is. How do I create an investor funnel? How do I find more investors? How do I find more deals? At the end of the day, it's going to come down to whoever you are talking to. It comes down to this, and I hate to say this, but it comes down to the level of competency and intelligence of the principals that are doing the deals. And so why
do you hate saying that?
It
should.
I hate saying it because I don't want that to not encourage other people to follow and to try to start something. But hear me right now when I say this. When I first started, I knew nothing. I could not talk intelligently about much. But what I still do is have a voracious appetite for learning and getting better. So for the last 7 years, I've been trying to get better 1% every day. It's taken 7 years to get to the point where I am now. And I start to feel like I'm able to influence people in the right way because of all of that work. So please do not hear that and be unencouraged or whatever the negative impact of disencouraged, I guess might be the word. Be encouraged because wherever you are now, you can become better. And so go ahead.
No, I just want to dive in on that. Guys, just because you show up doesn't mean that you're great. I think you disrespect the craft if you think it's anything other than that. Yep. You'll hear me from time to time talk about people who want to go fight Trevor McGregor, and all they've done is watch a freaking video and listen to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Look, It's a bigger deal. You need to get in a ring. You need to spar. You
Yep.
need to work on it. And I have no apologies. I'm uncompromising in my belief that those who learn the fastest and learn the most are the ones who are going to be the apex performers
That's
because
right.
they have the knowledge, and then you just have to apply against it. Don't don't feel bad. Don't apologize for that because it's a differentiator for you and the rest of your team. I've spent
Mm-hmm.
time with all the guys. They are competent, and
Yeah.
if you're not competent, it's quickly teased out, and then we move you into a different bucket. And that bucket is the person who isn't actually dedicated to honing in
Mm-hmm.
their craft, right? Like we are craftsmen. We want to be experts. And I don't know many people who are working as hard in order to have the depth and the breadth of knowledge so that you can see the market conditions that create an opportunity, unfair advantage, a strategic advantage, not only for your company, but for the people who partner with you on the deals. I mean,
That's
that's the
right.
whole game. Where it's unfair. Real estate is unfair, right? Insider trading in real estate is absolutely fine. It's totally different from the stock market. And if you aren't spending the time to get that advantage, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like the last couple deals that we have done, we on paper, if you look at the values of what stuff is trading now from when we bought these, just even 30 days ago from Penn Valley, but the historic Northeast, that deal appraised as is $5.4 million. We're under contract at 3.5. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do on that deal. The 426 units, it just got a BOV at 26 million. We're in that at 21,750. Okay. Because we took that risk last year. We put our asses on the line and we went and did that. And I got a 426 unit deal over the finish line. Our investors on that deal are sitting on $5 million worth of equity. Now, that's again an appraiser's opinion. That's not what somebody's potentially willing to pay for it. But I guarantee if I went and listed these properties, we're already looking at properties that we purchased this time last year that people are reaching out to us and we're like, you're going to pay what? So there is an unfair advantage and we don't do every single deal. And it's been apparent to me over the last 3 months that I continue to get folks reaching out on LinkedIn saying I have an off-market deal in Kansas City. I'm like, not one that I haven't seen or sent, an offer in already. Like, no, you don't. The unfair advantage is that I'm not overpaying and there's a margin of safety. And that's what Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett are teaching me. And what I realize Corey and Parker have always believed from an investment thesis standpoint. I just have to learn that stuff myself. And having a margin of safety allows for distributions to be made during COVID, allows for all of those different things. So it's just it's been a nice learning for me to understand that to an extent, and I'm very happy with the people that I'm putting around myself to do business with for a long time because you have to continue to grow. And there's a lot of guys in this industry that I respect, but they kind of flatline and they just continue to do the same thing that they're doing. And it's not sad to me, but it's frustrating to me because I know that there's unrealized potential, but who am I to judge what anybody else is doing? I'm not. That's not my job here. They're happy, that's fine. But you get to a point where everybody from a hard skills standpoint kind of flatlines and everybody's about the same. And Jim Collins talks about this in Good to Great. All of these CEOs of Uber, of maybe not Amazon or Apple, but of Uber and all these companies, they have these hard skills. They're, Harvard MBA guys or gals, and all of their hard skills are at the same. What elevates them to a Jeff Bezos or a Steve Jobs or the Alibaba guy is the emotional quotient, is their willingness to continue to learn and say, hey, I was wrong there and I am going to get better. It's like the old Marcus Aurelius quote where he was out there, in public saying, hey, this is what I believe. And I'm here telling you exactly what it is. If I am wrong, if you have the ability to make me see it in a different way and have evidence to do it in a better way, please tell me the truth is what I am after. That is what I've been on, is this journey for this truth. And it's starting to come to fruition. And it's funny because the more noise that you cut out of your life, the clearer you start to see things. And Jerome cuts way more than I do out, I think, in my life. But the last 6 weeks now that we're in 2021, I have cut a ton of noise out. I mean, a ton. And I'm seeing really clear. And I'm not like getting unfocused, So anyways, that was just a huge learning for me, or a big win, was understanding that I can step into that position, and I'm going to continue to do that. And that's what my unique value proposition, or my unique genius, like what is his name? Dan Kennedy always talks about, find that unique genius. That's what I'm focusing on.
So I jumped on the soapbox and started preaching because you were trying to downplay something I thought was really significant. But when you were speaking about the social media stuff and it's starting to convert and get into traction and hitting, the thing I wrote down on my notepad here is compound effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally, people are out there watching what you're doing.
Yep.
And they're waiting until something happens and they think, oh, FTW, oh, Logan, oh,
that's
that
right,
guy that I saw on social media. And it is, if you just do one thing, it doesn't work.
That's right.
It's the consistency, it's the rigor of it all, and seeing it in multiple places, and it's consistent.
Yep.
That's what leads to the trust, right? They're getting to know you, and you don't even know they're getting to know you.
That's right.
They're deciding whether or not they like you, and that's none of our business whether they like us or not. But those who choose to like us, then it's, am I consistent enough? Am I predictable enough that you can decide that you trust me?
Yep.
And then when that happens, all of the friction vanishes and you're able to move with a level of efficiency that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing, man. So
yeah,
back to the systems, back to the process.
Just 1% every day, right? I mean, it's just showing up every single day. It's fun to see the fruits of that. I think if I may, I think what the top business people in the world can do is they show up like that on a regular basis, but then they're also able to designate and figure out what actually is working. And then they go pour gasoline on that and they expose that vulnerability. That's the point I have not gotten to yet. That's where I will get to. That's where you only get to, is if you put yourself, in that arena. And that's what when you mentioned that, you can't see it right here. Maybe you can, but Teddy Roosevelt is right here. Okay. And he is in the arena, and he wrote this way back when. I don't know exactly when he wrote this, but he wrote this beautiful little saying that said something about, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms. That is what I am trying to do on a regular basis, is just simply show up in the best way possible, learn, and just be patient. And that's hard for me, is the patient part. And what I'm trying to figure out in our business is to continue to understand, when Steve Jobs built that company, when Jeff Bezos built that company. Now, they're in different businesses, right, where you can really pull different levers and get feedback like this. The business I'm in is the feedback takes longer to get. However, you also cannot lose your tail like you can in those other businesses as fast. And so I'm not as smart as those guys. I want to make sure that if something's coming, I can be ready for it. But if I can pull those same levers that they pull in their tech businesses, in the real estate business, not only are we going to benefit, our investors are going to benefit. I think we've got a little bit of that going on. And so anyways, I just kind of went off on a tangent right there, but that's been a huge win, a huge learning. for me this past week. Some of the losses, obviously getting COVID-19 is a loss. I mean, it's just not, I don't know what the long-term impacts of it are. I just, it's just a loss just in general, I suppose. I have not been moving as much as I would like, but I'm trying to rest. So that's a loss for me is just not moving as much. I had to cancel quite a few meetings, which was a loss. I'm unsure about how to handle the future, how long this is going to last. That's created some sort of uncertainty in my head. So that's a loss there as well. But at the end of the day, I'm not in control of this whole thing that I'm, I read something that said we are physical beings, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience in this world. And I like that. And I don't remember where I read that this week. I think it was in one of Matthew Kelly's books that I read, but I like that a lot. I just thought that that was very beautifully put. Maybe that's been out there for a long time. I haven't really heard that before though. So it got me thinking, it's like if I think about where I am now, turning 31 next month, about a month from now, dude, I got probably, hopefully at least 40, maybe 50 more years, maybe 60 if I'm lucky. Dude, that's a long time. I probably will forget about that time when I got COVID. Now, hopefully podcasts and this stuff still exists, because how cool will it be to be able to show Ezra and Isabella like, hey, you want to go listen to what Daddy was talking about in 2021 and this is like 2050? Hopefully I can send them a playlist. I don't know even what that looks like. Dude, what does an iPhone look like in 50 years? Who knows? But
I have no idea. I'm not that smart.
Yeah. But what's cool about that is it gives me perspective. And that's my biggest learning. I have a lot of learnings written down here because, big Catholic guy, right now is always the beginning of Lent. We're all called for prayer, fasting, and almsgiving during Lent. So there were some learnings in there that Taylor and I are doing with helping people out. It's very cold here. There's warming centers all across the city. We're trying to help out with warming centers. I'd love to go volunteer, but obviously I can't yet. So I can volunteer with my dollars, which is awesome. So, but the biggest learning was this is going to give me the opportunity for perspective and to give myself the permission and freedom to enjoy the time that I have, because I'm never going to get this back. And I have two choices. I can make it hell for myself. And most people looking at my scenario would probably be like, man, I bet he's really struggling. Or two, I can say, okay, I can't do everything that I was doing, but this could be huge in the way that I work going forward. And it also could be huge with my relationships with my children and with my wife. So that's the way that I'm trying to think about this. It's not easy every single day. I'm still waking up every single hour. I'm still having to take big, deep breaths and remember that this is an opportunity. But Taylor's doing an incredible job. She's keeping the faith. She's keeping the positivity going, which definitely helps me. I got you. I've got other guys checking in on me. I've got other things happening that are positive. So even with all the scenarios, even with everything that's going on, I still feel extremely blessed and feel like I got a big opportunity here. So that's how I'm trying to reframe this scenario. I think that's how anybody can think about something that happens to them. And I texted you and I posted this on Monday, kind of the thought process right after it happened, or maybe it was Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. It was like, go to fear setting. What's the worst that can happen? What's this mean? What can you control? What can you not control? And I literally walked myself through that. And I said, okay, you've already been through the worst scenarios. You can handle that. It's not going to happen. Probably not. Anyways, you're not going to probably die. And if you do, call your life insurance guy for the family, But anyways, long story short, man, that's the takeaway. That's the learning. I'm looking for perspective. I think I've already gotten some after having this conversation with you today, and we'll see how long this lasts, because I have to go get retested next week, and fingers crossed that we're all good.
Well, I've heard you say this several times and I've let it slide. I don't think you're trying to reframe anything. I think you've reframed it and you're living in that frame. Like without question, you've moved on to the next phase. And you did that in that split second, back to the what I call the special operator or the Navy SEAL situation. It's like, okay, what does this mean? Boom. I got perspective and now I'm off to the races. Now, do you second guess it? Do you think about it? Do you question whether or not this is what you should be doing? Sure, that's especially if you have time to think, right? It's something that happens. But at the end of the day, you're already you're in motion. What I think people, when I hear people say I'm trying a lot, they're stuck. They're sitting there and they don't actually feel like they're going to make progress, right? They're the indecision, they don't know what to do. I'm trying, I'm stuck. No, let's go. And then if you find out that you're not heading in the right direction, you can make an adjustment. It's a whole lot easier to turn when you're moving than when you're standing still. And I mean, you know that already, but I think it's absolutely worth saying.
Well, onward and upward. We got 2 quotes today. I love both of these, especially right now. The first one brings me a lot of confidence, and this is from probably a guy who's had more impact on me than anybody that I refer to. And I don't speak to him about him much, but when I was first getting started, I was looking for a mental model on what do I need to do to be successful. Like, I don't know. So where did I go? I went to a coach and I found John Wooden in his pyramid of success, and I absolutely love his pyramid of success. I started working on all these different things. I really just started working on industriousness and haven't really left that one, which is just work really, really hard. But I have generally left that square. But if you haven't checked out John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, great book, great pyramid. It gives you a nice mental model to get started. But he said, do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. He was not one for making things more complicated than they were. He's a coach, right? He won. What did he win? Like 8 or 9 championships in a row with UCLA or something crazy. Never happened before. Probably won't ever happen again. And he would teach his players how to tie their shoes. So 1% better every single day. Duke Ellington is a musician, and he said this. This is accentuate the positive, right? So that's the focus. The other one was confidence. This is accentuate the positive. A problem is a chance for you to do your best. I didn't even look at this week as a problem. I looked at it as an opportunity the moment it happened. And I wrote down in my other journal, literally, this is why you do exactly what you do on a regular basis, to not let things like this knock you off and actually make you better. It's possible. It can happen. I appreciate you, Jerome. Hopefully we'll be better next week, health-wise, and we'll have some new reports, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you. The one thing that was out there that I wanted to talk about, if we got 2 seconds, and it's just a marketing partner. Are you guys still making good progress with that? Is that part of the high value task over the next 2 weeks?
Yep. So we had a call last Friday, so a week ago. He was to deliver me, and he walked me through the masterclass, and it is good. And it is really good. And it's really good because it moves people from inaction to action, and it gives them a mental model. I told him a lot about mental models, and he said, I got the thing just for you. So we're not calling it a masterclass. We're going to call it the decision matrix. So basically, something that allows somebody to go through that has 9 critical elements. And depending on how their portfolio is set up, if they don't match a certain amount of these critical elements, they need to take action. Really, nobody meets those 9 critical elements, so they need to take action. But it gives you a framework, and it has downloadable worksheet to work through. It is really awesome. I have not seen the finished product yet, and his emails, for some reason, were going to my spam. So on Tuesday, he needed something from me. I didn't see it till Thursday. I got COVID, all of that stuff. So I got him what he needed. I'm hoping to have that today or Monday at the earliest and get that moving forward. And I'm really excited about it, if you can't tell, though.
It sounds good. I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we kept that moving. I'm good to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, brother. I'll talk with you soon.
Talk soon.
Hey, compressors. If something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.